I would like to welcome you to iNEXT in this very strange way at these very strange times. We decided to go ahead with a kickoff meeting, and that was supposed to be my welcome and my introduction. That, as you know, we're asking you to watch by video to be ready for the virtual kickoff meeting that we will handle soon. So iNEXT was launched in response to the Horizon 2020 call for research infrastructures, and specifically the call about structural biology for health and food research. And there was a very clear mandate from the European Commission that we should specifically welcome new communities of users with experience other than structural biology, and also enable translational research in various fields, including drug discovery, drug design, but also importantly, other fields like biotechnology and biomaterials for health and food research. We created a partnership that was building on our previous experience with the iNEXT program that we had successfully run for the previous 4 years. And we put together a number of synchrotrons, a number of high-end NMR facilities, a few more electron microscopy facilities than previously, because you have all heard about the resolution revolution that has been undergoing in the cryo-EM field. And these access providing partners, together with biophysics at the NKI, my own facility, were coupled with data managing experts at the ABI, and importantly, with 5 different S3 projects from different areas. Of course, our close partner Instruct from structural biology, but also EATRIS, Eurobioimaging, the EU OpenScreen, but also Metrofood. With some of these people we have connections, but we have not been partners. Some people like Metrofood are new connections that we made in the context of this project. Another new thing in iNEXT-Discovery is that we invited 5 partners which were selected in order to ensure the regional networking. So these partners will run annual meetings, they will run workshops, or they will specifically host in regional meetings with regional experts in areas like the Balkans on one hand and the Baltics on the other hand, that structural biology is there, it's growing, and we really want to engage these people into the iNEXT consortium. So the project is very, very close to 10 million euro. From that money, we're spending 2 million on networking, which is the management, but also the very extensive meetings program and the dissemination activities and everything. We're also spending the 5 million for actually enable translational access to users. And importantly, actually, we're spending 3 million on joint research activities, which is research that is specifically geared towards increasing the quality and the quantity of access to our facilities for the community. And with these 3 pillars, we're trying actually to engage the different communities, like the people in biomaterials, in medicinal chemistry, cell imaging, and in the food sector. So the governance of iNEXT is that I am the coordinator. Hans Wink is the project manager that works together with NKI and is responsible for all the daily running of the project. We have decided to form a very small and agile executive board. The goal of the small executive board is to be able to provide advice and help the coordinator in decision making in a regular basis. So we're actually meeting with executive board every month on the first Tuesday at 1 of every month. And it has been, we have started doing that before the project started. And Susan Danke from Instruct, Harald Schwalbe from the BMRZ, and Manfred Weiss from the BESI at Berlin, and Eva Pereiro from the Alba Synchrotron in Barcelona have always been there. And actually, they have been amazingly useful for myself and Hans, guiding us and discussing everything and making joint decisions for how to best execute the project. At the same time, there's a lot of people that have a big stake on this project, and these are the people that are the more traditional, let's say, management board that you typically find in such big projects. So the management board has representatives of all the partners that are making facilities available for transnational access. It is chaired from Professor Lucia Banchi from the CIRMMP. She's an NMR expert. And the goal here of the management board, who is meeting less regularly, annually or twice a year, or whenever Lucia feels that there is a reason to intervene, is to control the actions of the coordinator and the executive board, and also collect and process independently info from the different panels, assist us in monitoring progress, advise us on changes of the work plan. And it's also important that whenever the management board meets, the executive board is present, but the management board can ask the executive board to go out if they want to discuss it, to have independent discussions, and act as a control board. It's like the presidents of the company versus the executives of the company. The management board has already met once, and it has went very well. And it's also important to say that specifically one member of the executive board, that's Harald Schwalbe, is responsible for briefing the chair of the management board every couple of months about what has happened in the executive board. Also, the minutes of the executive board are made available to the chair, and every 2-3 months, the chair will make a small summary for the whole management board. So the management board is a bit hands-off, but it has a big role in the flow of the project and in advising for the best practices. The project is structured really in 3 clusters that are depicted graphically here. On top is the panels of independent experts that I will describe right after, and their role, who are helping us to run and manage the whole project. The project management, it's one work package in the EC lingo, and it's putting together different work packages that deal with the main aspects of the project. This is the core activities of the project. The research activities, we treat them a bit independently in the sense that there is some independence for the it's responsible. There is some specific monitoring from the executive board. Eva Pereira is responsible for that, and all that, of course, is feeding back to all the work packages of the project, which have to do with dissemination, with outreach, with translational access, and so on. So the advisory panels are these 5, and I will explain who they are and what their role is. Of course, the most important, I have to say, is the Scientific Advisory Board. We are extremely pleased to have Elspeth Garman from the University of Oxford chairing this board. And in that board, we invited Rolf Bullens, who is now a pensioner, but was the coordinator of iNEXT, and he's still very, very active in science. And we hope that with his experience on running iNEXT, but also participating in a lot of previous such projects, to have very valuable input. Ilaria Ferlenghi from GSK Vaccines from Italy has been a member of our industry board in iNEXT, and she had amazing input, and we thought that it would be great to have an industry expert, not only academics, in our Scientific Advisory Board. Kevin Gardner is a newcomer in the iNEXT project. He's an NMR expert from the USA, And we also welcome Helen Sybil, electron microscopy expert from the UK, who do not know anything about iNEXT. Actually, our chair, Elspeth, is also new in the iNEXT consortium. She has not knew us only as a user before. So we hope to have the experienced views and the new views providing valuable advice. Our industry panel, again, it is some newcomers and some people we knew. Magali and Mark and Marcel we knew, and Zdenek and Sophie are the new people in our industry panel. And again, we hope to combine some knowledge of the project with totally new views of the project, and also have a good spread across Europe and across small companies, bigger companies, and so on. A very crucial body in iNEXT-Discovery is the review panel and the so-called moderators. The role of the moderators is very important for the project because they ensure the independence of the partners in judging the projects that receive access. We aim here strongly for continuation, and Slavika, Mikkel, and Darren were also involved in iNEXT, and they have done a tremendous job, and we're really indebted to them for accepting to go on doing this rather thankless job. It's a lot of work for not much benefit, and we're very happy that they go on receiving every project, assigning reviewers to the project, looking at the reviews of all these people, and deciding if a project will get access to iNEXT facilities or not. And they all have their specialization. And the newcomer in this review panel is Marina Mappelli, who's an X-ray expert who obviously will deal with the X-ray proposals. The review panel is supported by a lot of reviewers. Most of these reviewers were also involved in iNEXT, but there are a few new people, and actually we aim to enrich that list as the project goes on, because of course the reviewers spending their time and making their time available in short notice is absolutely crucial to have quick and high quality review. And the moderators are very active in helping us recruit new reviewers, and you're all welcome actually to suggest ideas. We're very open and very thankful to all these people. Last but not least, we have established a very small user panel with Pavlina Rezakova, Oliver Zerbe, and Christiane Berger-Schafitzel, who have different expertise in X-rays, in NMR, and in cryo-EM. Oliver, we knew a bit from iNEXT. Pavlina and Christiane are new people that did not know about iNEXT, but have been or want to be users. And we depend on them for giving us the user perspective, not only of themselves, but something that we want to do in the coming months is with their independent help to recruit a virtual community of users, and using some of these virtual tools that are being popular these days, like Slackware, to engage as many users as possible to provide feedback of what their experience is, what their wishes are, what is working, what is not working, and we want to do that independently. So that's the role of the user panel. We don't want to be picking up our favorite people. We want, as independently as possible, our user panel to help us establish this community, get the feedback, and provide it to us. And the user panel is the only one of the iNEXT panels that is also represented into the management board. The user panel will elect a representative with a procedure that we can provide advice or help, but we will let them do it independently and have our user in our management board meetings, giving us the feedback from the user community that will be established. So now our core activities, they are divided, of course, in work packages, and I will go on to a bit more detail. One thing that is a very big contribution, we think, of these type of projects to the community is networking and the training. We do workshops, we do annual scientific meetings in which we try to invite as many people as possible. We try to outreach to industry by organizing different activities, by participating with booths in industry meetings, and making sure that every single development that happens in iNEXT gives benefit to the industry. We have to be honest, the industry is not always fond for applying for access because they have IP issues, they have other considerations. However, all the developments that go on the facilities, all the networking and disseminating what can be done in the facility has been absolutely crucial to industry. And we're really very fond of making sure that we keep providing this information to industry, but very importantly, getting their feedback, which is the industry panel. Of course, specifically through our S3 partners, we want to connect with different science communities that the facilities in this project have not been that familiar of. That's the medicinal chemistry community that we have sometimes, the food community, which is new to us, and the biomaterial communities that are also relatively new to us. We want to find ways to engage them to using our facilities and our science. Of course, planning the future is a big thing, and also the internal networking and training of our facility managers is also very important. This is a list of the structural biology workshops. It is there for reference. Of course, the ones that would happen in 2020, you can imagine that they might be delayed because of the COVID situation that I will also discuss later. But for everything else, I think we will be in a good way to deliver them. We are exploring the ways to do that virtually, but most of these workshops, they were practical workshops. So we would rather wait and see how the whole situation develops, because we think that the physical presence and actually the practical aspects are very important here. We have the annual consortium meetings. Of course, the kickoff meeting is not happening at NKI. It's not happening in Amsterdam. It's happening virtually through GoTo with different sessions and so on. It was absolutely essential to have it. That's why you're watching this video. For the annual consortium meetings, again, we really have to wait and see how the situation develops and decide about the exact timing and if these are going to be, at least for this year, a virtual meeting or an actual meeting. The outreach to industry, there are specific workshops that will be organized that have very specific aims, more general or more specific. Also, very importantly, we have planned other meetings for connecting to scientific communities, one with each of our S3 partners. Again, the planning of these meetings, as you can imagine, is a bit delayed. The themes have been discussed and they have been agreed. And I think we aim, of course, to have them as soon as possible, to engage the new communities as soon as possible. But reality kicks in sometimes, and we really have to think of exactly what's the best way to handle the situation. Reaching regional communities, I have mentioned 2 scheduled meetings, one for the Balkans in Athens, one for the Baltics in Vilnius in Lithuania. Again, these are meetings that normally we would be planning to have them towards this autumn. It is too early to say anything, but our aim is to have them as soon as possible and actually see if this will be real life or virtual events. There is one foresight meeting challenge later for the project, which is to see what are the new trends and plan the future, of course. And last but not least, the internal networking and training. The first meeting happened as planned very early towards the end of February. It was to train the facility managers and the local operators to the ARIA system that's provided by Instruct. This just took place days before all the travel bans started to be imposed. And the other internal meetings, you can see, for example, the boot camp, it might be virtual. Other meetings, we will see exactly how this goes on. Next, dissemination and outreach. We have two audiences. Of course, one is the general public. It's a very difficult audience to reach. It's something that we have a difficulty doing in iNEXT. We have explored new ways, we have learned, so we hope to be much more efficient. And of course, it's the scientific audience, but the general scientific audience beyond our niche field of structural biology, which is also very difficult because the reach has to be cross-sectoral, different scientific sectors as well, but also cross-regional. And we will have some challenges there as well. Of course, we started by making a website with the help of Instruct and a designer. I hope you have all visited it. Information will keep going there, and we hope you like the looks. We have also made marketing material. There is a threefold that you will be receiving soon, and you can distribute to your users. There were some presents like pens for people to see our logo and get familiar, and for our panels some other things, but of course there will be no physical meeting for a while. We have made a poster that's in the middle that you over here that you have all received already as PDF, and we really encourage you to print it and hang it to good places in your facilities or in your labs so people are aware of that. And we have made also a banner that we plan to use for the physical meetings when this resume. Sustainability is one of the most difficult things to address. How the community goes on beyond these projects. And we're used to make these plans because these activities are going on for 30 years, and we always have to plan ahead. And we are in a changing landscape right now. So, and we have a good plan, the different panels, different other lobbying bodies, different ESFRIs, different communities. The Instruct team is in charge of collecting together with the coordinating team this input, and together we want to develop the iNEXT-Discovery vision and for the future and put it together as a sustainability plan for our activities. Data management is another very important part of our activities. So we have a general data management plan, but we have also some specific plans for data management. And one of those is fostering the public availability and reusability of fragment screens that we will be doing in the context of our user activities, but also we have a development project that has this very important aspect of data management. That's mostly for X-ray specific. There are a lot of important data management issues in NMR that are being addressed in that work package. And there's also a plan that you see the abstraction of this plan. It is for data management in cryo-EM. The general idea is already existing, but of course it will be further developed and implemented with the help of our partners. And I have to say specifically, we're very happy to have the EBI participating because, of course, they have a huge experience in managing data from different sources in bioinformatics. Access. Transnational access is the basic reason for the existence of this project. That's 50% of our budget. And we want to make sure that everybody has access transparently, quickly, and with the right type of access, the right type of support, the right type of instruments. The way that we designed the access is split it in the so-called technology tracks that are users that are aware of what is the technology that they want to be using, X-rays, NMR, and electron microscopy. The second part is the so-called signature access that is addressing two different general fields. One is drug discovery, and the other one is in-cell structural biology, and they're being addressed by different instruments that you will see later in the description of the project. Very importantly, we decided to have thematic calls geared towards health, towards biotechnology, towards food research, and towards biomaterials. These are not open yet. We will consult together with our Esri partners. We aim to open these thematic calls as soon as possible. They will be with deadlines, and they will be very likely for slightly bigger projects addressing these new communities that they will need support to make sure that the value of the access is very good for the research, and also this is the best possible research that we can support. There are rules for the transnational access. Of course, peer review from independent experts. I described how this happens through the moderators and the reviewers. What is important is the scientific merit, but also the relevance for translational research. We do like users from new communities. That's one of the mandates of the call, but we also generally think this is important. And of course, there is some preference or priority, to be exact, to users that do not have similar installations in their home countries. Non-European users are allowed. The EC allows up to 20%. And of course, everybody that gains access and approved access to our facilities has the access free of charge. We include, in general, scientific support and training to the access. We don't just give an instrument, but of course, we help you to use the instrument in the best possible way. The access has to be transnational. There is an exception for EMBL, which is the EMBL, it's the European Laboratory. And also there are some exemptions provided for remote access under specific conditions. Please read it, it's also there. You can only get remote access if the set of installation is if the same set of installations is located in different countries that are offering the same type of service. So, for example, biophysics are only offered at the NGI in the Netherlands, so the Netherlands cannot have remote access for biophysics. But for example, a synchrotron in the UK, because there are other synchrotrons, it could have remote access to the synchrotron. That's an example. However, remote access should be limited because the physical interaction, we find it important on one hand. On the other hand, right now, with all the travel restrictions, this is something that we'll be discussing with the European Commission and with our project officer, that perhaps we will be in need to increase the remote access to have the project being a success. We're ready for that. We just have to make sure this is according to the policies of the funding bodies, and of course, we'll be monitoring that. Finally, principal investigators named in the grant, that's me and you and a lot of you that were receiving money for this project. We are still allowed to access facilities different from our own. So, for example, a PI in an NMR facility can ask for access to a facility for cryo-EM. However, it is very important to keep that in control. So there is a new rule that in order to do that as a PI, to get access to another partner facility, to apply for access, please inform the executive board. We want to keep track of that, and we want to make sure there's a reasonable use of this possibility. We need that because else the research of many of the partners that work with different methodologies will be severely compromised. ARIA is the tool that we use for proposal submission and proposal monitoring. All user access can only take projects that are registered, that are submitted in ARIA and approved by reviewers. All visiting users must be registered in ARIA, even if a PI submits the project. If a user visits a facility, this user must be in ARIA also to get reimbursement. And all reporting should go back to ARIA within 2 weeks after the access has taken place. This is the responsibility of all the facility managers in all the partner sites, and this is extremely important for monitoring the progress of that project. Please let me emphasize that it takes a few minutes when a visit is finished. There are not 20 visits per day or anything like that, so please take this time, take the time to report for that. The Access Portal, as I said, has the 3 technology tracks: the NMR, EM, and X-rays. It has the different types of signature access, which are the fragment screening and ligand screening, macromolecular interactions biophysics, tomography by electron microscopy and correlative light microscopy as well, soft X-ray imaging in the synchrotrons, in-cell NMR, and also serial crystallography and long wavelength crystallography, mostly for cell-for-SAT phasing. And we have made a specific access portal for industry. Industry can apply for access if they promise to publish, or they can use our portal for submitting a proposal for paid access, but we can help them choose the best facility. We can provide the right context in cases of industry that is new to structural biology and they do not have their favorite partners, as many industrial users have. I want to highlight a new feature in the proposals. This is a development that took place in Instruct by the ARIA team for us, and it is very important. We have this case-sensitive help text. Every different proposal has a customized help text that is actually telling the user what should be included. This has been a problem in the past that we have more generalized proposals, but now we have this possibility. So if you want this text updated, we are very happy to do that and discuss it. And as the project continues, we want to provide to the users exact help of what exactly they should include to have a successful and scientifically and technically meaningful proposal that is easy to judge and can have, of course, the best feedback and the best results after the visit. There are also extensive guidelines in the portal after you log in, before you start. Of course, one hopes that all the users read them. It doesn't always happen. That's why the help text, I think, actually is much more important. We score the proposal for scientific excellence, for the relevance of translational research, for the scientific track record of the proponent, and for the technical feasibility of the project. And if you collect 10 points or higher, you are accepted for access. We started access on the 13th of April. I'm sorry, that was not 13th of May. And there are 17 proposals submitted a few weeks later. All these have been assigned to the moderator. 13 projects were sent out of review, 8 approved, 3 rejected, 2 we don't know. I'm sorry, this is the status of the 13th of May. I got confused. We started around 2 or 3 weeks ago. And here you see the first proposal that was approved. It was submitted on the 16th March, actually. That was less than 4 weeks ago, and actually it was approved in record time because it was the first proposal. But we are achieving a very good turnaround, and I want to thank our moderators and the reviewers for that. Very important, open access publications. All partner and user publications resulting from iNEXT-Discovery must acknowledge the project and Horizon 2020 funding. Publications where the partners appear as co-authors must be open access. We have signed for that. That's how it should be. So if you publish yourself for projects that were funded by iNEXT, or you publish with your users that are acknowledging iNEXT, please make sure that these publications are open access. This is a contractual obligation that we have. We also ask you to encourage your users to publish as open access. We are aware that we cannot force users to publish as open access because it's sometimes, well, most of the time it costs money, but please try ideally to actively encourage them to be open access. There is a very specific acknowledgement text that please make sure that this appears in all your publications and all your user publications. This text is in several places in the web page, and I hope it's being used because this is a measure of our success. This is a measure of our common future. COVID-19, I already mentioned it a few times. We claimed force majeure and the receipt has been acknowledged. Our project officer was positive that this will be looked at favorably because this is a force majeure. What does it mean? For access, COVID projects will be given priority. This is made very clear in the websites, but it also means that some facilities might delay access for accepted projects because they might be closed or they might be giving absolute priority to the COVID-related projects. Networking, we discussed all the problems. With joint research activities, something well, a lot of the activities that we do are relevant for COVID research. We will not, of course, use the money to do the research, the COVID research ourselves, but if there are developments that would greatly benefit COVID-relevant projects in the context of the existing research that we have proposed, we will give priority to these developments. And of course, you see the kickoff is on the web. I also want to say this to show an example about COVID-19 research. Professor Harald Schwalbe from our executive board has set up a consortium called NMIR COVID-19 that is using different funds from government and from industry, but it's also using the iNEXT facilities. So this is something that we want to make obvious. There was a news item about that, and this is one more opportunity to emphasize that applications addressing SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, and I'm mentioning that in the title, so that's very clear. They will be funneled towards rapid review, and we will make sure that we do our best that these projects are accommodated in open facilities. We cannot guarantee that, but this is a message to everyone. I'm finishing with a very brief description of the different joint research activities. The first research activity is about fragment screening in fragment-assisted lead discovery projects or drug discovery projects, as some mention it. It's headed by EMBL at Grenoble, and the aim is to create integrated software tools for fragment hit identification, to develop fragment selection and prioritization tools using structural and chemical data resources, and also move towards open data repositories through the European Open Science Cloud. I have to say that this JRA is building on the success of the JRA1 of iNEXT that actually set up the physical technologies for fragment research. It was one of the big successes of iNEXT that we promised that we will set up these things for the users, do the research necessary to open this for users. We opened this for users. There were several projects performed in iNEXT, and now we're addressing the next step, which is the way to make the best use of the data that are being generated. And this is based on the previous partners, but we are also joined by new partners, namely BESI, that has a lot of experience, and also others. And we hope to have as good progress as we had in the previous JRA1. And this JRA is still headed by José Marquez, who did the fragment JRA before. The second joint research activity is about high throughput, and specifically in the context of cryo-EM and in the context of serial crystallography. So one part is specific instrument developments that can allow monitoring the ice thickness on cryo-EM grids, which is something that takes a lot of time in very expensive electron microscopes, and the hope is to come for much cheaper instruments that can do the screening. And you can see that in the picture that there's a prototype with EMBL that we hope iNEXT helps to advance it. And there's also tools for automated cryo-EM sample evaluation and high throughput data processing when you are in the microscope that are also being developed in the context of these activities. And also there are some activities that are geared towards X-ray crystallography on how you can do very efficiently the so-called CDX X-ray crystallography, which is very important for many specific fields. The third joint research activity is trying to bridge timescales, states, and dynamics. It is mostly, well, it is geared towards NMR, and it has to do both with time result experiments. It has specific developments for studying RNA, which is a very specific application, but also for looking at light-sensitive biomolecules, for monitoring drug receptor interactions, and also making developments that have to do with in-cell NMR, where we need to standardize workflows on bioreactors and other things to make all these things available to our users. Last, but by no means least, is the last joint research activity, structural biology for cellular imaging, and specifically for challenging systems. So there is developments on cryomilling for cryo-EM, but also cryo soft X-ray tomography. There are developments on protocols for super resolution fluorescence microscopy and how to correlate that with electron microscopy, but also with soft X-ray tomography, developing joint SACS and NMR protocols for flexible macromolecular complexes, and finally for studying protein dynamics by solid-state NMR in combining this with cryo-EM approaches and studying molecules in their native environment. That was all. That's what iNEXT-Discovery will try to do. Please prepare your questions. We will send you a link, or simply you can email to Hans Vink your questions. And I hope to see you all at the kickoff meeting, where you will not listen to that again, but I will be available to answer live your questions. Thank you for your attention. Stay healthy and see you at the virtual meeting.